Just for
Apparently, the hot button topic is immigrants.
It's
killing everybody. It's getting to our kids.
the kids.
Not the kids.
You know, we have no money. It costs $4 billion a day to take care of them here. I don't know if that's all.
So let's table set here for a little bit. So starting last year, we had a fun decision. The governor of Texas and governor of Florida,
Shout out to Texas
and Florida, started sending busloads of migrants over without warning to the city, telling them what time they were coming.
Why do we call them migrants and not immigrants? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know, actually.
What's the difference? It's the same shit, right?
It is the same thing, though, but the idea is like, they're part of a migration pattern, so...
Migrants.
Migrants and immigrants.
Versus immigrants?
Migrants is like a short...
Immigrants is when they're just crossing the border.
Or they come and they stay? I don't know. Aren't they synonymous?
I'm going to have to look this up. Do a little thing.
Pop up.
So anyway, so we get... So we've been getting this influx for months now. So there was this big buildup about there was this caravan that was supposed to come over, I think last month. The numbers never came to be. Like, everyone overhyped it, overexpected it. Even though historically, every time they overhype it and expect it, it always falls apart somewhere, though. Title 42 got revoked, which basically... The rule for Title 42 was that you got here, we can kick you out because we said COVID was a threat, but it didn't get marked on your card or go against you. Now you come in, you get caught, you're on a 5-year ban, don't want to see you ever again, and you can also face jail time.
Oh, okay.
So we lock you up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it costs like $70,000 a year.
Or we just basically throw you on the first
taxpayer.
And we also throw you on the first plane out of here, though, and go like, oh, you're banned for 5 years now. So here we are, though numbers haven't added up, but we're still getting an influx of migrants into New York, specifically Manhattan, 42nd Street Terminal. Shout out to Times Square.
I was wondering how they were getting there. I'm like, yo, how do they land in Times Square specifically? It's because of the
they
bus.
dropped them off.
The terminal.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was like, come on, like they just chilling there.
You know how
they literally dropped them off.
How mind blowing that shit. I'm sorry. Go ahead. How mind blowing that gotta be. You an immigrant from somewhere and
you're
the
in
first
New York
in the fucking epicenter
yeah.
right there.
Yeah. That's why I see
all the
them
lights.
Excited.
You imagine?
They're so
that
excited
gotta be a
right
mind
now.
fuck.
Yeah, they're all young men. But they're
Damn.
so excited with the stars in their eyes.
I just walked through fucking treacherous terrain and the jungles of Nicaragua.
No, they're hyped. They are hyped to be here.
Of course. They probably only seen it on TV. And now
Right, so they get sent with a bus ticket, like, no explanation, like, you're going to New York. Or let me correct that now, they're all sending them to Chicago, anywhere that basically, those Eric Adams will say, anywhere that has a black mayor, you're getting one.
Anywhere that's a black mayor.
Damn, that's wild. Didn't think about that political outcome.
But yeah, supposedly all these liberal cities, like Ron DeSantis sent like.
But Eric isn't that liberal.
No, but
my bad.
We'll get. It's a whole fun story. So the DeSantis sent like a plane load of people from Florida to Nantucket because he thought it was funny.
Oh right, there was that.
They're on the plane.
Yeah, like basically he just took, or there was a bus also. Like he just basically told them like, "Oh, Massachusetts is taking you. Bye."
And then the people there welcomed them with open arms.
They did though, but the thing is that they don't have. But they don't have though they didn't have the resources to actually keep them. It was like, oh, you guys have money, and it's like, yeah, though, but we don't actually have space. So we've been getting an influx from the city. Now it becomes an interesting question though, of like what the real number is though, because the influx didn't happen at the border. So we are not getting like a whole new wave that no one expected. We're getting surprise waves. Like I think, all right. So for anyone who didn't hear the episode, like the analogy I made last time was like, imagine my cousin shows up with his whole family at 2:00 in the afternoon without telling you. Oh, by the way, though, we're your guests.
Yeah, but I bring these niggas that BYOB, you know what I'm saying? I bring these niggas that fucking bring shit.
Those at least.
No, but that happened to us at the start of the pandemic with your cousin.
Which one?
That stayed with us for
No.
months.
I actually did house some immigrants for a while.
Yeah.
You had a cousin that stayed with you?
Yeah, man.
And her husband, right here.
From Ecuador.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they were here for like
you went
5
through
months.
your own little...
Yeah, nigga.
Migrant.
They got fucking mad comfortable. I was like, all right.
That's when I moved here first. Yeah.
It was supposed to be for like a week, but because they couldn't fly back because of COVID, that shit ended up being like 6 months.
It kept getting pushed back and pushed back.
And I was like,
oh, yeah, must have been going crazy.
We were patient.
I mean,
6 months?
I was patient, but
Yeah.
I
We took a lot of like weekends out.
Yeah, I was. Damn. That's when I was doing my most traveling. Damn, fuck this shit. I'm out of my own crib.
Yeah, won.
So then it gets to the point though. So what ends up happening is most of the migrants actually don't stay in New York. That's also another conversation issue that's been going on. Like they get dropped off in New York, and then it's like, well, I have family in New Jersey. I have family somewhere else. So they're not all staying in New York. But it becomes an issue, as everything else, as we've talked about always. Money becomes an issue. So the federal government gave us a ton of FEMA money to actually handle this, and the feds were like, okay, great, you also have a ton of unspent COVID money you haven't used yet that you guys can keep, use it. The problem is, and this is where I don't blame Adams for this, de Blasio, when he got a lot of the COVID money, started experimenting with new programs using the COVID money to fund it. With the idea at the time was like, well, once it takes off and it's popular, the feds will keep funding it. The feds are like, well, you still have money that you haven't spent yet, so either use it or lose it. So now the mayor is kind of angry at the president because he says that, oh, we need more money, we need more of this, more of that. And the president's like, you guys have a ton of money, you're just not using it. And that's not my problem. Like, you guys got to use what you got first. So, and also, by the way, you guys should be suing Texas and any other state that's sending migrants over because they get FEMA money to handle this because Texas has more open space to handle it. Right. And they're not using it properly. So why don't you guys sue for the FEMA money so you guys can use some of that money as well?
Yeah, but that's gonna that's gonna take time. That whole suing and
not necessarily. Right? I mean, though you can get. I mean, though it's actually quite quick though because I know sooner or later, like it goes right to the Supreme Court, and then it's like it's an issue there. It's like, are you using your money funded properly? Now the argument could be yes, you are, no, you aren't, or here's ideological reasons though. But it'll take a year. But I know the idea is at least get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Rather than starting now and then later.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, and you know, we've had these conversations in passing, but there are a lot of states in this country that are underserved in population, right? So that, for example, I know places in Arizona, mainly like in the West, why, and that those communities do need an influx of a working population to even get some sort of economy rolling, just to even get the shit in, because they're becoming like ghost towns.
Well, that's becoming a conversation that's being had also, though. Like
why not just ship them there?
Well, not even not ship them though, but
or
it's like
temporarily,
or give them. I mean, they're giving them the options. Like, hey, though, like we used to do this actually way back when, though, where we still do it now. Actually, pardon me. Where like we give people like a ton of money, going like, hey, if you agree to live here for 10 years, we'll even give you the house. Just like they'll work in the area, help build up the population.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing that, especially like I can think of like parts of Pennsylvania, which are like ghost towns.
Well, it's happening here in New York and the
state
because they're right now migrants that are coming here to the city. A lot of upstate towns are trying to lure them to work up there because they don't have enough employees. And I read an article where a migrant did like speak to the reporter, and they're like, I did accept it because it seemed great to have space and have work, but they're facing so many racist threats right there.
Well, that, and then you also get into the fact that there are some towns that are just basically like saying, this is where it becomes tricky.
There's this one little detail.
One little detail here. Like, so it also becomes an issue of like, New York City's limited in space, though, but again, it becomes like, whose numbers do you believe? Because the New York Times like blew up this whole article a few days ago where they said like the number of migrants that we claim we're getting and what's really there are two different numbers, and it's probably a lot lower.
Got it.
But it becomes an issue of like some towns are just saying like, but the mayor doesn't want to host them all in New York City, so he keeps trying to ship them out though, and then and a lot of towns are suing to block.
How come a lot of the news that gets out that is more sensationalized gets more attention than like rational news?
Because
since we're out of time, huh?
Because that's a whole nother episode.
Because like
the after episode.
You know what it is like. For example, our cousin, right? He hit me up with a video.